These are some of the sights you might see when you're wandering Bratislava, Slovakia. Do they fit in? I mean, it's 2026. Is this something that you would expect to see today? Well, this is what I wanted to talk about this afternoon, is some of the old Soviet stuff that's sitting around Bratislava that you might not expect to see. Why is all that Soviet-era stuff still in Bratislava? Join me, Terry Dixon, for an adventure for anyone as we look into why this stuff is still there. Bratislava is the capital of Slovakia. We all know that, but it has a history of being Czechoslovakia and going through the Soviet era. Today you might go over to Freedom Park and see this really unique fountain. They have a splash area there that's just part of a fountain, and it's really unique. But in most places in the Soviet Union, like here in Tallinn, Estonia, they have a Lenin graveyard with all the old statues in it. When I was traveling a long time ago, I even sat on and knocked my own pieces off of the Berlin Wall. Over the years, everything's become a joke to the point of, this actually stands for Club of Gourmet Cooking is what it really means, but it's the KGB pub there in Bratislava. You look out over the area in Bratislava, and not only do you see the landmarks I've mentioned, but when you're standing on that UFO tower from the bridge that was built in 1972 called the Slovak National Uprising Bridge, you see Soviet-era apartment buildings in the background. And most of these monuments or buildings or structures are visible from all over the city. You can be on the UFO tower and you will see the castle, which was rebuilt during the Soviet era. You can see the TV tower that sits up on the hill on the other side of town. From the TV tower, you can see absolutely everything, including the radio tower, the Slavin Memorial, the castle, the bridge, even the apartment buildings on the other side of the river. So why are these things still there? Honestly, it's pretty simple. In 1993, Slovakia became Slovakia, broke away from Czechoslovakia, and then had to make their own way in the world. They had a housing shortage, so instead of building a bunch of new apartment blocks, they simply brightened up the old ones with paint, let people remodel the insides, and moved along. The TV tower, well, they still needed TV, so they needed a broadcasting tower, and they just turned it into a tourist attraction. It's got an observation deck up there, it's got a cafe, and everything looks like the Soviet era. They've just made it into a museum. And if that's not enough, all around this TV tower on top of the hill is a magnificent park. You can go camping, they have a ski resort in the winter, they have all kinds of activities, they have a cafe up there, and food trucks, and picnic areas, and playgrounds. It's absolutely magnificent. And it's all been going on off and on since 1970. Now, the radio tower across town that you just kind of saw a glimpse of was built in 1983. It was one of the last Soviet-era projects. And Slavin here was built in the late 50s. It is a 1940s World War II memorial to the soldiers who lost their lives. But once again, built by the Soviets, there is a bunker from the Cold War right on the property, down in the woods. But all of this was actually built by the Soviets. This obviously is a war memorial. It stays. Now the UFO bridge comes from the Soviet era, 1972, but it was built by the Slovaks. It's called the Slovak National Uprising Bridge, as well as the UFO bridge. It was built in honor of the uprising that the Slovaks had against the Nazis in World War II. So this kind of skirts the issue of Soviets. It was designed and built by Slovaks, but it has been turned into one of the major tourist attractions here in town. And once again, when you're up there, you can see the castle, Slavin, the TV towers, the old Soviet apartment blocks. You can see most of the Soviet items from other Soviet items. And as you look around town, you might notice mosaics. Old Soviet mosaics on the way over to the modern era Freedom Park with its great fountain and everybody hanging out in it and enjoying it. The Slovak National Uprising Bridge. You might be walking along the waterfront and realize that there are Soviet-era mosaics all along the bottom of that tower. So it's an interesting dichotomy in Bratislava. The people who live here at the time, they felt they didn't have much of a choice, especially with the apartments. So they turned the radio tower, the UFO tower, and the TV tower are all partially tourist attractions. You can go visit any one of them. You can eat in the TV tower, go to the bar on top of the UFO tower. It's a great way to spend some time. They solved their housing problem. They added to their tourist attractions. And they just said, we're going to make this our own as they moved into their new era in the 21st century. So if you ever wonder why this stuff is here, it's because there's nothing like Slovakia. They kept the old, they made it new, they turned it into their own. And even though everything is still hanging around town from the way the Soviets used to like to make everybody know they were watching over them, this is a great modern city with some old wonders.